From a devastating earthquake in Nepal that blocked this border crossing into China, and a wedding day in the Philippines that didn't go according to plan, to a 7.5 magnitude quake in Japan that rocked everything in sight, and a dashcam video from China that looks like a scene out of a disaster movie. Here are 10 terrifying earthquakes caught on camera. On September 16th of 2015, an 8.3 magnitude earthquake rocked the small Chilean town of Illapel. It struck about 28 miles west of the city in the Pacific Ocean at a depth of 15 miles. Here's what that looks like when two friends suddenly realize an earthquake is happening under their feet.
Ven, Matías, ven. Ya, tranquilo. Vamos. Uy, la weá no para, güey. Terremoto, con su madre. ¿Te aguantas un rato? ¿Voy a salir ya para ir a buscar a la niña? ¿Ah? ¿Para ir a buscar a la Jessica? ¿Qué hago? No, porque si me esperáis acá o voy a ir a tu casa. ¿Voy a bajar? Yo voy a buscar a la Jessica.
Luckily, these two did the smart thing and got outside as fast as they could. The damage was minimal in their area, but others didn't fare as well. After the quake, Illapel's 30,000 residents were immediately without power and running water. Other small towns and villages closer to the epicenter bore the brunt of the damage. About 48 hours later, 90,000 people were still without power, and 9,000 were homeless. The carnage didn't end with the main quake either. Several aftershocks struck the area, some reaching 6.0 and 7.0 in magnitude. To add insult to injury, the earthquake triggered several 15-foot tsunami waves on Chile's west coast. They reportedly picked up fishing boats and tossed them onto the coastal streets. The Noto Peninsula region of Japan is known for catastrophic earthquakes. A powerful tremor in 2007 injured over 150 people. Between 2018 and 2022, over 20,000 mini-quakes struck during a 4-year swarm. On January 1st of 2024, a terrifying 7.4 magnitude earthquake hit the area. It was the strongest tremor since the late 19th century. Despite the shock, people were so accustomed to earthquakes that they continued with their daily activities. Bowlers, for instance, were in the middle of a game when the monstrous quake toppled all their pins. The earthquake lasted between 50 and 60 seconds, with many small aftershocks following. Once it felt safe, our bowlers ran to the door, only to realize they were still wearing their bowling shoes. If you take anything away from this video, it's that bowling shoes are so ugly that these guys risked it all to not be caught wearing them outside. Locals found themselves trapped in a parking garage elsewhere on the peninsula when the quake struck. The garage may seem sturdy, but it's the last place anyone wants to be. The earthquake caused over $17 billion in damage on the Noto Peninsula and across Ishikawa province. Unfortunately, over 240 people lost their lives during the quake. Over 80% of them perished when their homes collapsed. New Year's Day may have been a blessing for some, but a curse for others. In Japan, it's a public holiday, so many businesses are closed, and most people stay home with their families. Those in sturdy buildings were okay. Those in poorer conditions didn't fare well. Chiapas, Mexico is the country's southernmost state. It's home to about 5.5 million people who enjoy the tropical climate. After a long day out in the sun, some folks in the capital city of Tuxtla Gutiérrez like to get inside and enjoy their time at the local arcades. But on September 8th of 2017, they found themselves playing a more dangerous game. An 8.2 magnitude earthquake struck the Gulf of Tehuantepec shortly after midnight. While its epicenter was about 54 miles off the coast, those on the mainland still felt the violent shaking. Locals in a busy arcade bar were caught off guard when the quake struck out of nowhere.
Verga. A la verga. A la verga. Ya tardó un chingo. Ya pasó. Verga. Ya pasó. Madre, güey.
This arcade bar was part of the Plaza Las Americas shopping mall in Tuxtla Gutiérrez. Gamers and shoppers ran for cover when the ground violently shook for 45 seconds. In the video, you can see people standing around, unsure what to do. Metal grates and ceiling tiles fall to the ground, which could have done severe damage if they struck someone in the head. If you couldn't get out, seems like the safest place to be was under a pool table. The quake was so strong that people over 600 miles away in Mexico City felt the shaking. Former Mexican President Enrique Peña Nieto said that it was the worst earthquake Mexico had experienced in over 100 years. Technically, it was the worst earthquake in 32 years, but we get what he was trying to say. Chiba City, Japan is the capital of Chiba Prefecture and sits about 25 miles east of Tokyo. During World War II, they became the center of Japanese military production. This led to its near total destruction from Allied bombardments. Today, the city has been rebuilt bigger and better, thanks to about 40 square miles of reclaimed land from Tokyo Bay. On March 11th of 2011, an American man was walking through a park built over reclaimed land. Then, without warning, the ground began shaking. The sidewalks split, and water began seeping through the ground. He could have sworn the cracks were breathing when he pulled out his phone to record the event.
Can you see the cracks moving? That crack was not there. The whole earth earth is moving, I felt like I was drunk. I could see different parts. I could, ooh, wow. There was water just coming up right there in the ground. Crack is just moving. There's water. I don't know if water lines are broken, but this water was not there a minute ago. It's coming up different places. Here it's coming up through the sidewalk. The buildings were making a racket. I seriously thought I was sick first because I didn't know what was going on. I could just feel like I was disoriented. Stepping over another crack. It's making me kind of nervous. Especially since this is reclaimed land that I'm on right now. This used to be part of Tokyo Bay. And they created this land by throwing landfill and mountains, rocks out here. And so this land could just go potentially. I don't know.
Our cameraman had no idea he was living through the most powerful earthquake in Japanese history. The 9.0 magnitude tremor struck about 45 miles off the east coast of Japan in the Pacific Ocean. It was so powerful that it sent 132-foot tsunami waves racing toward Japan. These were the same waves that caused the Fukushima nuclear disaster. The water in this clip is likely coming from Tokyo Bay. After all, this park was built right on top of it. In most cases, land reclamation refers to filling in bodies of water with dirt, rocks, and cement. In this example, it was Tokyo Bay. The soil is highly saturated. It weakens when the ground starts shaking, allowing water to seep up through the cracks like this. Our cameraman was lucky the entire park didn't collapse. Hualien, Taiwan is a county-level city on the island's eastern coast. It's home to just under 100,000 people who are well-trained in proper earthquake procedures. In fact, the city as a whole is very well prepared. All that training and preparation was put to the test on April 3rd of 2024, when a 7.3 magnitude earthquake struck the eastern coast of Taiwan. Drivers heading across a suspension bridge in Hualien County had to hope for the best when the whole thing began shaking. Luckily, the bridge held up, unlike the Baltimore bridge collapse that occurred only 8 days prior. Traffic began moving again once the shaking stopped. You may have seen viral images of this leaning building floating around the internet. It's actually one of the few buildings to suffer any damage in Hualien City. According to the BBC, you could look around other streets today and never know a massive earthquake just struck. That's because Taiwan is no stranger to powerful tremors. Since 1999, they have made significant improvements in how buildings are, well, built. All new projects must meet basic earthquake-resistant levels. That means they can withstand a certain level of shaking without fear of collapse. It's why there was minimal damage, and it's why this bridge didn't fall into the water. In a city with tens of thousands of buildings, only a handful crumbled during the April earthquake. They'd been waiting for this moment for over 20 years. All their planning and prep likely saved thousands of lives that day. Luding County, China is a small cluster of towns and villages in southeastern Sichuan province. It's home to about 86,000 people who are all used to earthquakes. Their location on the Indian and Eurasian fault zones means they happen rather often. One of those quakes struck on September 5th of 2022. The 6.8 magnitude tremor rocked Luding County and had devastating consequences. Seconds before it hit, a car full of friends was driving down Main Street. Their dash cam caught the whole thing. Our driver probably thought to gun it when the ground began shaking, but they were in a pretty good spot. Assuming a massive crack doesn't open beneath them, they were perfectly safe out in the open. Meanwhile, several people emerge from the dust and debris to huddle in the road. They know as well as anybody that the intersection is their friend. Sadly, over 240 buildings crumbled during the earthquake. Another 13,000 were damaged, and 4 hotels were reduced to bricks. Yan, China, is a prefecture-level city in Sichuan province. It's located just below the Tibetan Plateau and is home to roughly 1.4 million people. They all live above a complex tectonic setting where the Indian and Eurasian plates constantly collide. In other words, earthquakes are a common occurrence. On September 5th of 2022, a 6.8 magnitude earthquake struck Sichuan province. As the ground shook, locals in a small village outside the central city found themselves surrounded by landslides. One of them kept the camera rolling while everyone else screamed in panic. This quake couldn't have come at a worse time. The area was still under COVID-19 lockdowns and had just experienced a severe drought and heat wave. Everyone was hot, dehydrated, and stuck inside. If they were lucky, they still had a roof over their head when it was over. Some people weren't even able to leave their homes. China's strict COVID policy literally locked people indoors. When they tried to leave, they found the exits blocked and barricaded. These locals were lucky they were already outside. On April 25th of 2015, 8 million Nepali lives changed forever. That's because a powerful 7.6 magnitude earthquake struck near the border of Nepal and Tibet. More than a quarter of Nepal's population was affected in some way, and that's not even counting the people in China. Footage from one of the border crossings shows what it's like to be stuck in the middle of it. People run and scream and reach for their loved ones. Debris rolls down the hills and blocks the main road. The sound of it all is enough to send shivers down your spine. The earthquake damaged or destroyed roughly 750,000 homes, leaving roughly 3.5 million Nepali people homeless. It also triggered one of the worst recorded avalanches on Mount Everest. In Tibet, it destroyed 2,500 homes while damaging over 24,000 others. In the worst affected counties, over 80% of the houses collapsed. According to the USGS, a giant block of the Earth's crust, measuring 75 miles long and 37 miles wide, shifted about 10 feet to the south in 30 seconds. Atop that block was the Nepali capital of Kathmandu and millions of local people. Imagine if your house suddenly shifted 10 feet in any direction. How much damage might that cause? Now imagine your house is an entire city. November 17th of 2023 was supposed to be the happiest day of Jack and Karen's new life. It was their wedding day, and all their friends and family had gathered in the Philippines for the ceremony. Sadly, their perfect day quickly turned into their worst nightmare. Just as they were walking down the aisle, a 6.8 magnitude tremor struck near their beach venue in Sarangani province. Our soon-to-be weds held each other tight as guests scrambled for cover. Was it a bad omen or a divine blessing on their wedding day?
Jesus! OMG! Lord! Jesus Christ! Jesus Christ! Oh Lord, what's wrong? Oh, mommy. Oh, Jesus Christ. Si Karen ba? Grabe ka ng wave ni Karen.
The earthquake was over in seconds, and everyone was okay. Our camera woman moved toward the water where she saw a small tsunami approaching the beach. Luckily, the wedding was on a plateau above the water, so the waves didn't wash them out. Earthquakes happen every day in the Philippines. Some are simply stronger than others. That's because the Philippines, Japan, and Indonesia rest along the western edge of the Pacific Ring of Fire. The area is famous for its daily volcanic and seismic activity. About 90% of the world's earthquakes occur within the ring. This couple knew the risks when they booked a Filipino wedding. Hopefully, all that shaking didn't ruin their big day. On March 16th of 2022, a 7.4 magnitude earthquake struck off the northeast coast of Japan just before midnight. Many people were in bed or heading home for the evening when the ground began shaking. It caused a train derailment, several buildings to collapse, and widespread power outages. A compilation of clips from around the Fukushima area shows us what it's like when one of those earthquakes strike. For some, it's terrifying. For others, it's just another day in Japan.
Earthquake. Oh yeah, this is normal. But that is not normal. Me. What are you gonna do? Run out? I'm too lazy. Fuck it, I'm just gonna go home. Go back to bed.
This event drummed up vivid memories of the March 2011 Great Eastern Japan earthquake. In fact, there's a chance both earthquakes could have been related. Some believe this quake could have been an aftershock of the 2011 event, just 11 years after the fact. Typically, after a main earthquake, aftershocks will last for several days or even years. According to one study, they can last up to a century. Some scientists believe the earthquakes we experience today are just aftershocks of catastrophic level quakes from long ago. If you enjoyed this video and want to see another just like it, be sure to click the link on screen now. As always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.